On a quiet Tuesday in late 2025, the United States of America crossed a line that no empire ever wants to cross. There were no parades, there were no speeches from the White House. The news cycle was too busy arguing about a scandal to notice. But in the basement of the Treasury Department, a spreadsheet updated, and the math officially broke. For the first time in 250 years, the cost of paying interest on our national debt hit $970 billion. For that same year, the entire budget for the United States military, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the nuclear arsenal was $917 billion. Look at the cross. This is the moment a superpower stops being a superpower and starts being an insurance company with an army. It means we are now spending more money to pay for our past than we are spending to defend our future. George Packer calls this the unwinding. He wrote that in America today, you can physically feel the cords that hold the country together snapping. The institutions are hollow, the elites are looting, the trust is gone. You feel it in the grocery store, you feel it in the comments section, you feel it when you drive past a factory that has been empty for 20 years. And today, we are auditing the collapse of the American century. Anyone can point at a burning building and say fire. Let's talk about why the building was fireproof in the first place. To understand the suicide, you first have to understand the blueprint. Because before we were a detonation, before we were a fortress, we were something the world had never seen before. Let's rewind the tape to 1945. Europe was burning, Asia was destroyed, and the United States stood alone as the king of the earth. Now the history books will tell you we were rich because we won the war, but that's a lazy history. We were rich because we ran a specific operating system that no other country dared to run. We didn't act like a fortress, we acted like an arena. The American blueprint was built on 3 lines of code. First is the radical openness. We didn't care who you were, we only cared if you were useful. When we needed to build the atomic bomb, we didn't hire a guy from Kansas. We hired a German Jew named Einstein and an Italian named Fermi. After the war, with Operation Paperclip, we literally captured Nazi scientists and put them to work building our rockets. It was ruthless and pragmatic, but the message was clear. If you have the best brain, you belong to America. Secondly is the open ocean. In 1944, at Bretton Woods, the US did something insane. We told the world, we will protect your ships with our navy for free. We opened our markets to our own enemies. We let Germany and Japan rebuild and sell cars to us. Why? Because we weren't afraid of competition. We welcomed it. We knew that if we forced the world to play our game, we would always win. And finally is the right to fail. In Europe and Asia, if you go bankrupt, it is a shameful mark on your family for generations. In America, bankruptcy is a badge of honor. It means you tried. We built a system where a bicycle mechanic could try to build an airplane, crash it 50 times, and eventually invent flight. This arena was brutal, it was chaotic, it wasn't safe, but it worked. It gave us the transistor, the microchip, the internet, the GPS satellite, the iPhone. It turned a colony of farmers into the architect of the modern world. But somewhere along the way, we got scared. We looked at the chaotic, dangerous, open arena that made us rich, and we decided we wanted to be safe instead. We started deleting the code. We replaced competition with protection. We replaced building with permitting. We replaced the arena with the fortress. And that brings us back to the spreadsheet in the basement. The reason we can't pay our bills, the reason we are paying $970 billion in interest, is not because of bad luck. It is because for 30 years we have been slowly committing suicide. We are doing exactly what the Ming Emperor did in 1433. We are burning our own fleet to save the bureaucracy. Today, we are going to audit the 3 pillars of this suicide: the isolation, the stagnation, and the abdication. I'm Mr. Moore, and this is the autopsy. So how did we go from the arena to the fortress? It didn't happen because we are stupid, it happened because we were in pain. If you are watching this from a town in Ohio or Michigan or Pennsylvania, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For 30 years, the arena worked great for Wall Street, but it was brutal for Main Street. In his book, What Went Wrong, former Treasury official George R. Tyler lays out the indictment perfectly. He argues that the American elite hijacked the open system. They took the profits from globalization and shipped the jobs to Guangzhou. They told steelworkers to learn to code. They told fathers that their dignity was inefficient. So the anger that exploded in 2016 and again in 2024 was justified. The dashboard was flashing red. The engine was broken. But here is the tragedy. When a patient is screaming in pain, they will accept any medicine, even if that medicine is poison. And the medicine we chose was isolation. We convinced ourselves that if we just built a wall around the economy, if we taxed foreign goods and banned foreign competition, the factories would magically float back across the ocean like ghosts. We tried to ban our way to prosperity, and in 2025, we ran the experiment for real. In April 2025, Washington pulled the trigger on the Universal Tariff, a 10% tax on everything entering the United States. They sold it as a tax on China. They told us it would protect our industries. Well, it is now January 2026. The receipts are in. Let's look at them. Receipt number 1, the jobs. The entire point of the tariff was to bring manufacturing back. But according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, between April and December of 2025, the US manufacturing sector didn't grow. It shrank. We lost 72,000 manufacturing jobs in the exact months the tariffs were supposed to save them. Why? Because American factories need foreign parts to build their products. When you tax the steel, you kill the guy who bends the steel. The second receipt is the cost. The budget lab at Yale ran the numbers. The average American household didn't get a raise. They got a bill. The tariff stripped roughly $3,800 of purchasing power from the average family in 2025. That wasn't a tax on Beijing, that was a tax on you. We looked at the China price, which kept our TVs and clothes cheap for 20 years, and we illegalized it. And then we acted surprised when inflation hit 4%. This is the fortress fallacy. We thought that if we locked the doors, we would be safe from the world. But when you turn a country into a fortress, two things happen mathematically. 1, you stop the flow of new ideas, and 2, you trap the rot inside. We are currently watching the Ming Dynasty mistake play out in real time. In 1433, the emperor burned the fleet because he feared the chaos of the open ocean. He wanted control. In 2026, we are burning the fleet of global trade because we fear the chaos of competition. We are banning TikTok. We are banning EVs. We are banning chips. We are trying to protectionist our way to the future. But history has a very strict rule about this. You cannot tax yourself into being a superpower. You have to build yourself into one. And that brings us to the real crime scene, because while we were busy building walls to keep the Chinese out, we didn't notice that we had chained our own builders to the floor. The problem isn't that China is too fast. The problem is that America has made it illegal to move. Let's open the file on the war on competence. If you want to know why the American superpower is dying, don't look at the trade deficit. Look at the bookshelf. Now, that sounds like a joke title, but it is actually the most terrifying economics book written in the last 20 years. In his book, Where is My Flying Car?, J. Storrs Hall asks a simple question. In the 1950s, we predicted that by 2020, we would have nuclear fusion, flying cars, and cities on the moon. We had the technology, we had the physics, we had the money. So, where are they? The answer is, we made them illegal. Somewhere around 1970, America decided to trade growth for safety. We passed the NEPA, that's the National Environmental Policy Act. We created the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. We built the EPA. Individually, these seemed like good ideas, but together they created something fatal. They created the wall. In 1960, the Code of Federal Regulations, the book of rules you have to follow to build anything in America, was 22,000 pages long. Today, it is over 185,000 pages. Every single page in that stack is a rule that says no. Every page is a permit you have to buy, a lawyer you have to hire, or a study you have to wait 2 years for. We are suffocating in paper. We built a system where it takes 4 years to permit a solar farm, 10 years to permit a mine, and never to build a nuclear plant. The arena is gone. It has been replaced by the DMV. And in late 2025, we watch this war on competence reach its peak. We watch the battle of Elon versus the state. Consider the absurdity of what we witnessed last year. SpaceX, the most advanced aerospace company in human history, had a rocket ready to launch. It was safe, it was tested, it was sitting on the pad. But the FAA refused to let it fly. Why? Was there a fuel leak? Was there a danger to the public? No. They were grounded because of a dispute over a sonic boom analysis on a launch license modification. The most competent engineers on Earth were stopped by the most incompetent bureaucrats on Earth. This is the competence crisis. And when the new administration tried to fix it, the system fought back. Remember the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. In 2025, the idea was simple. Fire the people who write the 185,000 pages. It should have been easy, but it turned into a civil war. We watched the permanent state, the unions, the agencies, the lifers sue, strike, and stall. They proved a terrifying truth. The bureaucracy is now more powerful than the elected government. They would rather watch the empire slowly collapse than lose their desk jobs. And this is the poison pill. A superpower cannot survive if it punishes its builders and rewards its blockers. If you make it illegal to innovate, the innovators will leave. They will go to Singapore. They will go to Dubai. Or eventually, they will go to Mars. And America will be left with 185,000 pages of rules, and nothing left to regulate. But the cost isn't just lost rockets, the cost is the spirit of the country. When you stop building, you start rotting, and that leads us to the darkest part of the autopsy, the decadence. When a civilization stops building, it starts remembering. In his book, The Decadent Society, Ross Douthat offers a definition of decadence that will haunt you. He says we usually think of decadence as orgies and grapes and parties, but that is not what kills an empire. True decadence is economic stagnation plus institutional decay plus cultural repetition. It is the feeling that we have run out of new ideas, so we just keep playing the old hits on repeat. Look at our culture. The top movies are all sequels. The top songs are all samples of the 80s. Even our politics is a rerun. For the last 10 years, we haven't been fighting about the future. We have been fighting about the past. Look at the slogans, Make America Great Again, Build Back Better. Both parties are selling you nostalgia. One side wants to go back to 1950. The other side wants to go back to 1965. Neither of them is offering a ticket to 2030. Why? Because nostalgia is a drug. It comforts a dying patient. But while we were high on nostalgia, the infrastructure rotted. In China, they built 25,000 miles of high-speed rail in 10 years. In America, we can't even fix the Amtrak tunnel into New York City without a 10-year debate. This is the short-term populism trap. In the arena, leaders planted trees they would never sit under. In the fortress, leaders only do things that pay off before the next election. Building a nuclear power plant takes 15 years. Building a new high-speed train takes 20 years. That is too long for a politician, so they don't do it. They prefer stimmies, they prefer tax cuts, they prefer tariffs. They prefer the sugar high of now over the muscle growth of later. And who pays the price for this sugar high? The next generation. The true victim of the Fortress America isn't the Chinese exporter, it is the American 25-year-old. We have created a society where it is effectively illegal to build the American dream. We have empowered a class of people called NIMBYs, that's not in my backyard. They are the gatekeepers of the fortress. They use the 185,000 pages of regulations to stop new housing, stop new factories and stop new energy. They spike the cost of living to protect their own property values. So the young American looks around and sees a country that is closed for business. They see a debt they can't pay. They see a house they can't buy. They see a government that is obsessed with safety but has made their future incredibly dangerous. We traded their future to keep our present comfortable. This isn't just bad policy, this is a moral crime. We took the arena, the greatest wealth creation machine in history, and we turned it into a nursing home. And while we are arguing in the nursing home, the rest of the world is moving on, and that brings us to the final verdict. Because while we were looking inward, we left the chair empty. When the United States leaves the room doesn't stay empty. This is the final fatal mistake of the fortress strategy. We assumed that the world revolves around us. We assumed that if we took our ball and went home, the game would stop. We were wrong. Over the last few years, we have voluntarily abdicated the throne. We walked away from the World Health Organization. We walked away from the Paris Agreement. We crippled the World Trade Organization by refusing to appoint judges. We called it America First, but in geopolitics, when you leave the referee's chair, someone else sits in it. While we were busy building walls, China was busy building bridges. They didn't just fill the manufacturing vacuum, they filled the leadership vacuum. They are now writing the rules for green energy. They are writing the rules for digital payments. They are writing the rules for trade in Africa and South America. We handed them the keys to the kingdom because we were too tired to lead. In his prophetic book, In the Shadow of the Rising Sun, William S. Dietrich warned us about this decades ago. He argued that the decline of America wouldn't come from a lack of resources or a lack of talent. It would come from a lack of political will. It would come from a system that is designed to consume wealth rather than create it. And that is exactly where we are today. So here is the verdict. The American suicide is not inevitable, it is a choice. We are standing at a fork in the road, and we have to choose between two models. Option 1, the fortress. We continue down the path of 2026. We keep the tariffs, we protect the dying industries, we print money to pay the debt, we let the bureaucracy strangle the innovators. We become a safe country, but we also become a poor country. We become a giant, stagnant museum of the 20th century, rich in history but dead in spirit. We become the Ming Dynasty. Option 2, the arena. We do the hard thing. We tear down the 185,000 pages of regulations. We stop protecting failing companies and let them die so new ones can be born. We open the doors to the smartest people on Earth again. We accept the chaos. We accept the risk. We decide that we would rather be a dangerous, messy, growing superpower than a safe, comfortable, dying one. The blueprint from 1945 is still there. It is buried under mountains of paper and fear, but it is there. We can turn the machine back on whenever we want, but we have to decide to do it. History is very clear on one thing. Empires rarely die by murder. They almost always die by suicide. The gun is in our hand. The question is, are we going to put it down? I'm Mr. Moore, and this is The Economy Historian. If this makes you angry, good. Drop a comment and let's figure out what comes next. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.